Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, as well as on Amazon. I'm also on YouTube. Please like and subscribe for Slam the Gavel. And I have an announcement. Please notify your Attorney General in your state regarding solar panels made by Sonova Generac Systems. And if you're having any difficulty with these companies, please fill out the complaint form to your Attorney General in your state. I've got a brand new guest on. I'm happy to have Jamus Bryant on. He has been abused by the legal system and the family court system. And what has been going on is the military has been undermining the family court proceedings. Now, the mother is a captain in the Air Force, and there has been massive judicial misconduct. So I welcome you, Jamus Bryant, to the podcast. Tell me more.
Well, hi, Marianne. Thanks for
Hi.
having me. I really appreciate it. This is just a tragic story that I'm involved in. Um, the mother, as you stated, is in the United States Air Force. She's a captain in the Air Force, and she's basically used her military status to deprive me of parenting time and to shut me out of the court system. Um, I would say back in 2021. She had in November 2021, she filed a motion with the court telling the court that she had deployed to Japan. Um, Come to find out, she didn't deploy to Japan. She actually relocated to Ohio. And for, I would say, roughly a year and a half, she kept telling the court she was in Japan. Meanwhile, she was in Ohio. Um,
So
I
she lied
found
to
that
the
out.
court.
She lied to the court. Um, and I kept following motion. And this is in Colorado, the state of Colorado, or Arapahoe County to be specific.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, she lied to the judge, and nothing happened. I kept filing abduction motions, motions to recuse the judge. I was just trying to get some sort of action in the court, and they wouldn't do it. It took me roughly, I would say, 11, 12 months to actually get a hearing in Arapahoe County. And when I had the hearing, um, the mother's attorney came to the courtroom and stated that it was a matter of national security, and I haven't seen my daughter since.
Ah,
I've, I've reached out to the military, uh, Freedom of Information Acts, just trying to get any documentation that I could, and have been unsuccessful. Still fighting to this day.
now, what was her deal with saying that this is a matter of national security? Like, what charges did she place on you?
She didn't place any charges. I like to say, first of all, that I've never been declared an unfit parent. I have no abuse on my record. Never been found guilty in a court of law for abuse. Nothing. I mean, they have absolutely nothing. It's simply that um, I discovered that she was lying, saying that she was in Japan. And then to make matters worse, she had the support of her commanders and other members of the U.S. Air Force. Um, Basically, they gave her deployment orders, fake deployment orders, fraudulent deployment orders. They submitted those to the court stating that she was in Japan, but she was never in Japan. And that's the hurdle that I'm trying to overcome. I've been trying to overcome this hurdle for roughly 3 years. My daughter was 2 years old when she was abducted by her mother, and I haven't seen her since, and she's 5 now.
Mm-hmm. Well, with not seeing your daughter since 2021. So
I'm,
go ahead.
it's just been a traumatic, emotional experience for me. Just constantly trying to get into courts. I filed appeals to the Colorado Court of Appeals, probably maybe 7 or 8 appeals. All my appeals have been denied. Courts have basically denied me court access, shut me out of the court. I filed appeals to the United States. Well, let me back up. Colorado Supreme Court, maybe six appeals with them. No, none of my appeals were answered. They were all dismissed without review.
Mm.
Um, Filed a civil rights lawsuit in the United States District Court of Colorado. They sat on that lawsuit for maybe a year and a half, and then without addressing any of my issues, they entered an administrative stay in my case, and I haven't had court access since.
Ah. And what year was that? The year of 2021?
Yes, I filed my civil rights appeal in 22 after the Colorado proceedings, the state court proceedings.
And that was entertained for, you said, 8 months or
The state court proceedings or the federal proceedings?
the civil rights appeal, I guess, in 2022?
Yeah, so in 2022, I filed a civil rights appeals, 42 USC 1983. I alleged all sorts of constitutional violations. My main argument in the case is the Colorado State Court, they fraudulently procured personal and subject matter jurisdiction over my case. At the time, when my daughter's mother was stationed in Buckley Air Force Base in Colorado, I was living in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
Um, and my daughter's mother started acting funny with parenting time, started not answering my calls. Um, so what I did was I packed up and I moved to Colorado.
Mhm.
And I got an apartment in Colorado. I hired an attorney. Um, but they had already procured jurisdiction over the case. Um, and the way that I discovered it is I began looking at the record and I seen that something wasn't right here. There was no complaint and there was no summons in the record. And from what I understood is in any case, in any legal case, that's legalese 101 that you have to be served with a copy of the complaint and the summons.
Mhm.
And I never did that. I never got that. And I was raising these issues and they just kept suppressing that. And like I said, it's just been a struggle.
So their jurisdiction is in Colorado, is what they're saying.
The jurisdiction was in Colorado. Like I said, after I discovered that the mother was not in Japan and she was actually living her best life in Ohio, um, I tried to get jurisdiction transferred to Ohio, and Ohio um, seemed to be under the influence of the Colorado court. They wouldn't. Um, they kept saying that I wasn't perfecting service upon the mother. I would serve the mother at her job at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And then the court would schedule hearings, and then I would come to the hearing, and then the judge would say, well, I don't think that service was perfected, Mr. Bryant. You may have satisfied the procedural statute, but the judge specifically told me he used to have a legal office, and sometimes when people are in the military, they don't get served, and so he dismissed my case because he said I didn't serve her, and I probably filed. Um, 6 new complaints for custody, and everyone just gets denied. I get kicked out of court. So I hired an attorney in Ohio, and um, the attorney sent me an email telling me that the court wasn't allowing him to file stuff. He told me that um, the clerk of court sent him an email telling him that they're not going to process his paperwork because the judge told them not to. So these are the type of hurdles that I'm dealing with. It's just massive corruption, and I'm just being denied court access.
So you have this attorney, and they're sending him emails that he is not allowed to file things
Yes.
through. So he's filing things through Colorado because Colorado won't let Ohio have the jurisdiction. Is that what?
Well, initially that's what happened, but then Colorado actually transferred jurisdiction to Ohio,
Okay.
and then Ohio wouldn't allow me to access the court. And I believe the reason for all of this is because I simply called out the Colorado judge um, for fraudulently procuring jurisdiction over the case. I demanded that they follow due process,
Mm-hmm.
procedural due process, and supply me with a copy of the summons and complaint. And ever since I did that, everything just went left.
Ugh.
So
What?
if to any of your viewers that are watching, you have to tread lightly because these people are corrupt, and the minute that you offend a judge, um,
Mhm.
him and all their friends, they're going to stick together and they're going to start suppressing your rights and
Mhm.
and flagrantly violating them.
I agree. I completely agree. As soon as a parent wants to recuse a judge, all hell breaks loose and the retaliation begins.
I can tell you an example. Her name was Judge Bonnie McLean, and she's the head judge of Colorado Arapahoe County District Court. So in the beginning of my case in Colorado, I discovered that my attorney. Well, I'm not even going to talk about that because I had to sign something. But
Mm,
in the beginning of my case, I caught the magistrate breaking the rules and violating my rights. So I caught the magistrate going into the record and changing court documents, altering court records. Um, and I was filing a lot of complaints against him to the Colorado Supreme Court, Judicial Board, um, Attorney General. I was filing all these complaints against him. So the head judge took over my case. Her name was Bonnie McLean, and she overturned about 16 orders in my case, um, admitting that she admitted that the magistrate was altering records and he was proceeding without jurisdiction, proceeding without authority. So I had roughly 16 orders overturned. So I thought that was a good thing.
mhm,
I thought, man, well, I'm getting some action here. Things are starting to look good.
mhm,
And I misunderstood because she literally started doing the same thing that the magistrate was doing. She started violating my rights. She started suppressing my rights. And like I said, I had a hearing in April 2023. I provided her with evidence that my daughter was actually the mother wasn't in Japan, even though she was still telling the court she was in Japan. I provided evidence. I hired a private investigator. Private investigator provided pictures of my daughter playing in a park in Ohio, and I provided all this information to the judge. And um, her attorney, like I said, came to court and said, "Well, Your Honor, this is a matter of national security. The Air Force is involved." And and the judge said, "Well, where's the child? If the child's not in Japan, where is the child?" And I'm like, "Judge, she's in Ohio." And she's asking the attorney, "Where's the child?" And the attorney says, "Judge, I can't tell you that. This is national security." And the judge acquiesced to that. The judge said, "Okay." And I said, Your Honor, I have a constitutional right to parent. I said, I have a standing custody order that provides me with 50-50 custody. I said, the mother has relocated to Ohio and she has not notified this court. She has not notified me, and nor has she filed a motion to relocate. I said, this is unlawful. I said, that by its very definition constitutes an abduction.
uh-huh.
And
Which is a
and the judge
felony.
was Yes. And the judge looked me dead in my eyes and he said, Mr. Bryant, I'm not going to discuss it any further. He said, if you want to see your daughter, I advise you to work through the attorney. His name was Grant Bursek at the time. She said, I advise you to work through Mr. Bursek if you want to see your daughter. He said he has given me assurances that he will help you get some parenting time. And I said, Judge, you can't delegate parenting duties to a third party. I said, as the court, you're supposed to enforce the custody agreement. I said, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Burchett can come here and claim national security, but I said, he hasn't provided this court with one shred of evidence, Your Honor. I said, how does national security, an act for terrorism, come to play in a family court proceedings? And she wouldn't discuss it. She dismissed my case. And I haven't seen my daughter since.
I'm so sorry. See, this is the part I just don't understand with this family court is because they take the opposing, whatever crap comes out of their mouth, the judge accepts it and just goes along with it. But you wonder if the judge is being paid off. You don't know. Do you know the relationship between her attorney and that judge? Like, did they ever work
Um,
in the PA's department together?
I'm not sure. Um, it was just a lot of shady stuff going on. Like I said, the judge just didn't care. Only thing she cared about was protecting her magistrate, who I had put in the hot seat, and she protecting a United States service member and her commander for submitting fraudulent orders to the court. And to make matters worse, um, I provided the court with CPS reports. Um, because I called CPS on the mother because I noticed that my daughter had bruises on her head. And so CPS conducted an investigation. They found that my daughter was being abused while in the mother's care.
Hmm.
Ironically, they said they couldn't say who was doing the abuse, but they put in their report that my daughter was being abused in the mother's care. So so I provided the court with that. I provided the court with video evidence of the mother drinking and driving. Um,
Wow.
the judge just wouldn't consider any of the evidence, wouldn't do anything.
They're all doing that to parents, to the fit parents that are providing exhibits, evidence. And
Yeah,
you're,
I mean, I was devastated. You know, I thought the judicial system was like a real thing, and like we
it's
really
not.
had
No.
rights.
No. Well, the thing is, you when you called CPS, that was in Colorado because
Correct.
you're right, because you were able to see your daughter. Now, I mean, you haven't seen her since 2021, and
And
you
they
don't
just
know.
can,
Right. And the thing is, the judge interfered in your previous order of your, what, 50-50 custody.
correct, correct. Unilaterally modified my custody agreement basically without a hearing. Um, because that constitutes as a modification. Like if you have 50-50 custody and you go to court and you try to enforce that court order and the court tells you, well, you're going to have to work through the attorney, that's a unilateral modification of your custody order.
So then she expected you, this is Judge Bonnie McLean,
Bonnie
expect,
McLean, yes.
is that with a G or a C?
McC,
Okay,
McLean.
McLean. Okay, so she expected you to work with the mother's attorney.
Yes.
Is she that stupid? This is what creates more conflict. And everyone needs to know this because what you just said is so important is that these judges expect you to work with someone who's a personality disorder, who's withholding a child against the law, which is a felony, and the judges are encouraging it.
It's ridiculous. And that's specifically what I said to her. I said, Judge, this is an abduction by the very definition. And she just would not discuss it. She just not would discuss it.
Right. So your ex absconded with your daughter to Ohio while telling the judge they're really in Japan.
Correct.
And so the judge doesn't care where they,
Doesn't care.
no.
Didn't care. They her attorney tried to use, kind of, sort of try to use domestic violence. He hid it around it, but he didn't actually say that. And I said to the judge, I said, Judge, um, the mother testified literally before she abducted my daughter. She testified that I've never physically harmed her. My attorney,
Mhm.
my at a hearing, my attorney asked her, has he wanted to get that out the way. My attorney asked her, has Mr. Bryant ever physically harmed you, done anything? And she said no. And I said, Judge, that she testified under oath. She testified under sworn oath. And the judge looked me in my eye. Bonnie McLean looked me in my eye and said, well, we're not here for that, and dropped it.
They're
Yep.
all doing this. Oh, I'm so sorry. And your daughter must miss you. You wonder what these kids are thinking when they don't see that parent.
Yeah, it's bad. I
And
had I had so I had a one time I had a video call on Talking Parents. She letted me talk to her on a video. And I was telling my daughter, I was like, Daddy loves you. Like Daddy's always thinking about you. And she told my daughter, she looked at my daughter. She came into the camera. I guess she heard me telling my daughter I love her. She looked at my daughter and said, he doesn't love you. He doesn't want to see you. And I have it on video. Like I have the whole thing on video
oh,
because the Talking Parents app records everything. And she looked at my daughter, told her he doesn't love you, he doesn't want to see you. My daughter looked her right back in the eyes and said, yes, he does. Yes, he
oh,
does. He loves me. And she was like 3 years old at that time.
oh, oh.
So
Okay, so she has also committed child psychological abuse, which is in the DSM-5, B995.51.
I tried to get emergency hearings in Ohio. I've literally been in Ohio for 3 years, whether in she served her whole um, station in Ohio. I guess it's 4-year station. Um, Service members, they do 4 years on a base, 3 or 4 years. She did her whole 4 years there. Um, they even deployed her when I filed a federal lawsuit in Ohio. I'm claiming that the U.S. Air Force was exacting some form of constructive custody over my daughter. They were keeping her on base. They banned me from all U.S. military bases, and I didn't even do anything. I've never tried to enter a base. I've never. All I did was file a complaint, and they banned me from all U.S. military bases. And then shortly after that, they deployed her. They deployed her to the Middle East for like 5 or 6 months. And during that period of time, I hired another private investigator. I discovered that my daughter was with the grandparents, and the grandparents were keeping my daughter on base and bringing her back and forth from Ohio to Pennsylvania. So I filed a petition for writ of habeas corpus in federal court in Ohio. They sat on my petition for a year and a half until the mom came home and then dismissed it.
Uh,
So it's
oh
just
no.
a gross abuse of power and judicial misconduct.
Mhm. Because when she was deployed, your daughter should have been immediately handed back over to you.
Correct. There should have
We
been a
see.
family care plan that was set up, um, detailing how I'm going to exercise parenting time and still be able to maintain my parenting rights. And they didn't do it. And I called out the military about it. Air Force instruction, DOD policy. I gave them a whole rundown of how that violates my constitutional rights, and nobody cared. The court didn't care. They didn't. Wouldn't give me a hearing. Nothing. I remember in Ohio, I filed it's called a, mandatory judicial notice, and I filed this notice, just providing evidence of my daughter on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the mother being deployed, the grandparents with my child, and the judge on the case sends me in this a year in. So this is a year in after I already filed my petition. The judge in the case enters an order telling me, well, if you keep filing things, it's going to take longer. So like
So,
he was trying to belittle me.
mhm. Do you think, okay, this Judge Bonnie McLean, do you know if she's biased against fathers or is she racist? Have you come in contact with any other parents that have any dealings with this Judge Bonnie McLean that can say, "Oh yeah, she can't stand dads. Oh yeah, if you're African American, you're gonna lose your case." Anything like that?
I've heard I'm not the only one. I've heard stories of both, especially fathers.
Hmm.
I've heard stories about fathers. Um, so I mean, I've read some of her cases where she's allowed, domestic violence people to still exercise their parenting time, but she wouldn't enforce a 50-50 agreement with me.
Well, do you know, I mean, does she have kids of her own, or is she not married, or has no experience with parenting at all? Do you have?
Um, I know that she's the head judge in Colorado is a military state. There's a lot of military bases there, and the military basically runs that state. Um, Anytime a person can come to court and say that it's a matter of national security or in a family court hearing, and the judge says, well, wipes their hands with it and tells you, well, you need to work with the attorney. Um, that's just another level of corruption.
Hmm.
And I don't think um, she cares. I think that she has the support of the Colorado Court of Appeals. And what makes things worse is I remember she was a member of the Colorado Judiciary Board for the Colorado Supreme Court. Like she was one of the members that investigates judges. So when I filed complaints against her, I mean, I was beating a dead horse.
Oh, yeah, it just what a disgrace to the bench. She's the fraud upon the court in this case has just been horrific.
Yeah, and I remember so I hired another attorney, Jones Law Firm out of Colorado, and they were representing me. And I remember at a point in the case, um, when I fired them, the mother's attorney went to go work for the Jones Law Firm, my old attorney's office. And I filed a complaint about that, and they denied me court access. Basically, everything that I filed, they denied me court access on. They wouldn't give me a hearing. The judge wouldn't accuse herself.
Well, in my experience, from what I've seen, not just in my case, other parents that come to me is that these judges will not recuse themselves, or if they do, it's because there's so much corruption, they don't want to get involved or get in trouble with it.
Yeah, my experience, even the attorneys, they play ball. They pretend that they're representing you, but the whole time they're undermining your case. And if you don't
Hmm.
know the law, I mean, I know a little bit. I've studied a little bit, but if you don't know the law, you would think that they're actually doing their job.
And what I've found, even as a pro se, even if you know the law, they don't care because you're a pro se. They hate your guts, and if if you know more than they do, or you just know the law and they know it too, they're still going to hate you and make you lose.
Yeah, they will use it against you. They will definitely use it against you. Like I said, I remember filing appeals in Colorado and to the Colorado Court of Appeals, and the head judge of the Colorado Court of Appeals, I believe his name was Judge Roman. He would intercept my appeals and deny my notice of appeal. Wouldn't even allow me to appeal. He would dismiss my notice of appeal with prejudice.
Mm.
And I would file petitions to the Colorado Supreme Court saying, look, this is a blatant denial of court access. Like, he's dismissing my notice of appeal without just cause and without any reasoning, and nothing would happen. Colorado Court of Supreme Court would just dismiss my complaint without review.
Well, I can identify with that. I was running a federal case, and the judge actually openly admitted he didn't look at the exhibits, which is the evidence. Hello. This is what they're all
Right.
doing. This is disgusting. So now where are you Do you still have an attorney, or are you a pro se litigant, which means you're representing yourself?
So here's the thing, right? I'm representing myself. Um, I actually took my 50-50 custody order when I realized that the grandparents had my child, and the grandparents are from Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania. I took my 50-50 custody order, registered it in Common Pleas Court of York County, Pennsylvania, because and and I served the grandparents notice. They hired an attorney. They didn't fight the registration. Um, there was a hearing scheduled. Went to the hearing, and the judge refused to enforce it. Wouldn't enforce it. Um, Said that the mother's in the military, she's deployed, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he wasn't going to enforce it. And I said, Judge, the grandparents are admitting that they have my child,
Mhm.
and they didn't challenge the registration. I said, by statutory law, like, you're supposed to enforce my custody agreement. And the
Mhm.
judge didn't do it. He threatened. He threatened to have me arrested. Told the bailiff to come over and escort me out of the courtroom. The bailiff came over, grabbed my shoulder. Then the judge said, "Hold on." He told me, if I ever see you back in this courtroom again, it's going to be sanctions and fines and all of this. So, and that was that. Wouldn't enforce my custody agreement.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that judge right now, um, I'd say about 4 months ago, was indicted by the feds for fraud.
And that was Roman
No, this is York County, Pennsylvania. His name was Judge Stanball. He was indicted on federal charges.
Stanball in Pennsylvania.
Yes. So
Wow.
I've been following my daughter everywhere that I discovered that she was at. She was in the mother moved to Colorado. I moved to Colorado. The mother deployed to Ohio. I moved to Ohio. Grandparents had my daughter in Pennsylvania, so I moved to Pennsylvania. I've been fighting in numerous states and federal courts.
All over an order that should have been followed.
That should have been followed.
So, okay, so then the grandparents are also committing a felony by having your daughter and not doing the right thing. I mean,
Correct. And
the grandparents could call you up and say, "Hey, Jamus, let's just, you take her, let's work something out because, we want to see her too." But people don't want to work, they won't work with you because their personality disorders. I don't know.
I think it's just I've been villainized,
Mm-hmm.
and they probably believe everything that their daughter says,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that. I mean, I remember in Pennsylvania when the grandparents came to the hearing, they told the judge that I didn't have any custody rights, and I said, Judge, here's the custody order right here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do have custody rights. They're lying to the court.
Mm-hmm.
And, Judge Stanball didn't care. And then when I filed the appeal, they told the Pennsylvania appeals court that he does have rights, but the rights are limited. And then um, when I filed a lawsuit against him, they told the court again, well, he doesn't have any rights. So it's just been back and forth with them. And right now, I have a lawsuit. I have a civil rights lawsuit against them in the Common Pleas of York County, and uh, they haven't. They're denying me court access on that. They won't. They won't assign a judge to my case. I filed a lawsuit against them roughly 10 months ago, and the court will not assign a judge to my case. Literally, anybody can go on the proprietary website and Common Pleas Court of York County and type in my name and see that when I filed a lawsuit against them and look and it still says no judge assigned.
Okay, so they smell a rat. And along with Stan Ball being indicted, have you reached out to that legal area and say, this is what you need to know about this case?
Yes, I filed a petition to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, asking them for a rehearing, asking them to review the Judge Stanball case, and they just dismissed it without review.
Now, I know you might not know, but who is indicting him? Who's heading that?
Uh, from what I know, it's the U.S. Marshals.
Uh-huh. Have you reached out to the U.S. Marshals and said, there's something else you need to know? You know what I mean?
No, I haven't thought about that. Like I said, I just reached out to the federal government and the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, but nothing.
Well, hmm. And you're in York County, Pennsylvania right now.
Yes.
So when does she get back from her little tour in Iraq?
It was last year around March.
Hmm. And still nothing. You're not getting any response from her legal, whatever you want to call him, attorney.
No, her Pennsylvania attorney told the Pennsylvania court that the mom's in Ohio, and that was it. So I went back to Ohio, and for the last year, almost a year, I've been trying to get in the court in Ohio,
Mm.
in Fairborn County, a small town in Ohio, next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They will not allow me to access the court. I file motions for alternate service, um, and they just deny them. I provide evidence showing that on text, I'm constantly asking the mother, where's my daughter? Can you provide me an address for service of process? And
Hmm.
she ignores all my texts, but she responds and sends me texts about unrelated things. And I provide the court with evidence showing that the mother is literally obstructing service. I provide them with documents from the SCR verification showing that she's still in the military. Um, I got a call from a pet store in Fairborn, showing that she's in the community, showing that she frequents the community, that she's in the area. And I file motions for alternate service, and they just dismiss them. They won't even consider them. So I'm blocked out of court. And like I said, I had an attorney in Ohio, and they did the same thing. They did the same thing to my attorney.
Do you still have that attorney?
No, I fired that attorney
Hmm.
because if you're my attorney and you come to me and say, "Hey, I got an email from the clerk of courts. I don't know what's going on. They're not allowing me to file anything. The clerk said that the judge told them not to allow me to file anything. I don't know what's going on. And after I already explained to you my case in Colorado, the federal court, everything that's going on, you're telling me you don't understand what's going on
Mhm.
and you don't know what to do. How could you not know what to do? Like, so I
Yeah.
fired that attorney.
He should have been filing reports on these individuals, reporting them
He
to
should
the
have been filing complaints,
right, right,
complaints, and I mean, it just didn't make sense. He knew what to do. He just didn't want to do anything.
right, because he doesn't want to lose his job or his BMW.
Correct. So that's the level of corruption that I'm dealing with.
Hmm.
Um, and trying to get the military. I mean, I have I have Children's Hospital of Colorado medical records from doctors where when I filed a CPS complaint, um, initially the Air Force made my daughter's mother take her to the Children's Hospital. When she gets to the Children's Hospital, she gives a report and she tells the doctors that she believes um, a co-worker of hers that works for the Air Force may have done something to my daughter while she was at work. And I provide the court with those documents. I provide the military with those documents. And nothing happens. They just suppress my voice. They ignore it, deny me court access, and continue to suppress my voice. We file FOIA requests asking, well, who was this service member that she's alleging may have touched my daughter while she was at work? I would like
Hmm.
to see the records. Never got them. FOIA request after FOIA request, never got
Now, what part of Ohio is this taking place? You had
them.
said,
It's Dayton, Ohio, in Fairborn, a town called Fairborn.
and that's by Dayton.
Yes, it's right by the military base. So
Or-
the last month, I tried to serve the mother again at the base. I sent I sent a copy of the summons and complaint to the JAG office. I sent a copy of summons and complaint to her commander, and she was living on base, and I sent a copy to her base address. So, uh, and these were being delivered by the Fairboard County Sheriff's Department.
Mm.
The sheriff delivers service of summons and complaint. So when the sheriff goes to the base at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, they tell him that the mother no longer has access to the base and she doesn't live on base anymore. Now, so I do a check just to verify that I'm like, well, maybe she's not in the military anymore.
Hmm.
So I do a check to verify she's still in the military. She's still in the military. So I'm like, why would they say that she can't access the base if she's still in the military? I know if you whether if you're in the military or a vet, you can always access the base. You can always get on base. And
Right.
I'm like, why would they say that? So, they're just undermining my service. They will
Mhm.
not allow me to serve her. And the magistrate, the same magistrate that's been denying me for the last 2 years, he said, well, there's no proof that the JAG are allowed to accept service on her behalf, and there's no proof um, that her commander is allowed to accept service on her behalf. So I'm dismissing this again. Dismissed it.
I think they're allowed to accept service. I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for instance, okay, so if someone comes to your door and your father answers the door and it's a process server and they're saying, okay, here it is, you know, this person's being served. So whoever answers that door, I'm going to have to ask my friend who's a process server, but there's something messed up with that. Who is this magistrate?
Magistrate Abshire. Um, I guess I guess he's the grunt. He does the dirty work because he's the guy that's constantly on my case. Um, and he just doesn't care. Like I said, I remember last year I served her at her residential address. Um, and he said that that was valid service. The clerk that was at the hearing said that, oh well, he satisfied the procedural requirement, and so he scheduled it for a hearing. And when I get to the hearing, he changes his mind. Like a month later, I get to the hearing, he changes his mind. He says, "Well, I thought about this, and um, I don't think that you've served her." And I said, "Judge, you and the clerk last month confirmed that I satisfied the procedural requirement. So
Right.
why would you change that now?" He said, "Well, I had my own practice, and when I had my own practice, I know serving people in the military was difficult. So I don't believe that she got it." And he dismissed my case. So this is what I've been going through in Ohio for the last 2 years.
Ah, right. Well, okay. So this is what I do remember. These process servers, if they see activity in the house, like if they see someone in the window and they're avoiding the door, they can leave those
Yeah,
leave
well,
the
this is
door
the
to the
sheriff. This is
right.
the sheriff delivering the documents and submitting affidavits that the documents were served.
And the
So I
judge
don't know.
blows it off.
Judge blew it off many times, blew it off. And like I said, even when I provide the court with evidence of obstruction of service, that she's deliberately obstructing service, and ask for alternate service by posting or mailing or email, they dismiss it. They won't grant me a motion for alternate service.
Oh, this is wicked. Terrible.
So I just been stuck. And then so what's even crazier is that um, the magistrate would try to tell me, well, Colorado has jurisdiction. And I'm like, Judge, according to the UCCJEA, um, Ohio is the home state. My daughter has lived in Ohio for 3 years,
Hmm.
and neither one of us have a connection to Colorado. And I said, on top of that, continue to submit to this court a transfer of jurisdiction order from Colorado.
Hmm.
So I don't understand why the court keeps saying Colorado has jurisdiction when Colorado themselves is saying we don't have jurisdiction. Ohio is the home state. So,
I think this is what these magistrates pull because when I was in federal court, they were saying you're in the wrong jurisdiction. It's like, wait a minute. The state court is just kitty corner from the federal court, and I live basically down the street. So I think we're all in the same jurisdiction. So then they
right,
agreed to that. But this is what they pull on people.
right.
Unbelievable with your case.
Yeah, it's so much, man. I mean, it really is. It's
Well,
so much.
and so many people have committed fraud and felonies. Have you notified the FBI?
Contacted the FBI. I sent them evidence of the abduction. I sent them reports from the Arapahoe County Police Department. Um, I contacted DOJ. I filed many complaints with them, 4 or 5 complaints with them. They would send me a letter saying it's being looked into, and then give me like a filing number, and then I just never hear from them again. Um, I've emailed just about anybody who would listen in the Air Force, just showing them the evidence.
Hmm.
Um, Nothing happens, and
Well,
she's still doing whatever she wants to do.
oh,
She's
for
literally
but that's only for so long because at some point these people have to face the music. At some point, my mother always said the wheels of justice are slow. I think they're like really like snail slow. But
well. That I mean, for me, I've went through a tremendous emotional roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it first happened, like I said, I was devastated, and I lost like 30, 40 pounds. Um, and I was dealing with a very high level of stress, just trying to learn how to fight back, and um, it was just a whole ordeal. And then I started to get my feet up under me,
Mm-hmm.
started to learn a little bit, started to learn what my rights are, and started to fight back. Um, but it was still rough. I was still processing a lot of anxiety and stress. Um, but I made it through it. I really did. I'm in a better place. I'm still fighting, but just overcoming that stress and that anxiety, man. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it literally almost broke me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would cry every day like a
Mm-hmm.
baby. Like I mean a baby. Like I would cry every day, just missing my daughter, just, like she was just ripped out of my life and I just didn't know how to handle that. And I could handle it if I knew that I did something wrong. Like if I did something wrong, I can reconcile that idea with my daughter being taken from me. But I did nothing wrong. And the fact that nobody's even accusing me of doing
Mm-hmm.
anything wrong, it's just bad.
Right. Well, I'm glad you came to speak out. A lot of parents are afraid to speak out. So you're
I mean,
just,
my advice,
go ahead.
sorry,
You go
my
ahead.
advice to any parent, just don't give up. Just keep fighting. Just let that love, just carry you through. Don't succumb to the wickedness and the corruption. Just keep fighting, man. Just keep fighting. Try to learn as much as you can, and rely on your own understanding, and not put your trust in its full trust in attorneys, man. Vet them, you know, and study and try to learn what you can. That way you catch them when they go against the rules or they do something they're not supposed to do. You can question that and know that they're not operating in your best interest.
Mhm.
Universe like I put my faith um not in man's law, but the creator's law. Like I believe um what you put in, you'll get back. And
Mhm.
even though right now, I don't have any reason to have hope. Like every door has been closed on me in the legal system. Um, Nobody will answer my calls. Congressmen, senators, I didn't emailed and written letters to so many congressmen and senators, and nobody wants to help.
Mm.
But at some point, man, what you put out has to come back. The energy you put out, I truly believe, has to come back. And
Mhm.
when it comes back, it's going to come back. You're going to receive massive blessings.
Mhm.
You know, I feel like that energy just piles up, and one day it's going to return to you, and it's going to be massive. So you just have to keep fighting, keep yourself in position um, to be successful. Like if you don't fight and you don't try, when that opportunity arises, you won't be there to capitalize on it. I know it's hard. I know it hurts. Trust me, I know it hurts,
Mm.
but you have to keep pushing through it.
Well, there was that from, I don't know, is it the book of Isaiah or that God will return sevenfold of what you lost. I'm going through my Pinterest trying to find my thing on that I saw that. It's been posted on Facebook quite a bit. And what this mother doesn't realize what she's doing is, you could have a very strong-headed little girl, which I hope she remains strong-headed and knows that she still loves you no matter what they're telling her. But when she becomes 17, 18, starts finding you, all this can backfire on her. And that this has happened to parents. I mean, not all parents, the lucky ones where the kid can come back and find you. I can't find that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, I believe it. I believe it. It's my only hope that I have. Without it, I'm hopeless. Like I just have to hold on to something, and that's what I hold on to. That, that's how universal law operates.
Hmm.
What you
Yeah.
put out, you'll get back.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's
And it's not easy to overcome the devil, you know.
right.
It's not evil to overcome evil. Like you mentioned a Bible verse, I remember in Job, um, Satan came to the creator, the heavenly council, and the creator said, "Where have you been?" He said, "I've been roaming the earth," you
Hmm.
know, basically looking for someone to devour, you know. The creator
Oh.
said, "You consider my servant Job." And we all know what he did to Job.
Hmm. And the thing is, you have to hold steadfast to your faith. These courts are trying to ruin people's faith in God. But I always said, God, you deal with these people. Because I can't recuse a judge. I can't make these people do the right thing because they're not going to, because there's collusion and Title 4D funding involved, where you know how that works. The taxpayers need to know how the Title 4D, B, and E funding works because it's used with the Social Security monies. But that's another podcast. But
Separation of powers right there.
right, right. So I just think that I'm still trying to find that verse. I think it's in Isaiah. Well, I'm not a Bible thumper, so I can't quote it. Isn't that terrible? But you will be given back sevenfold of what you lost. And we have to believe in that. I mean, their
Definitely
time
believe
will
in that.
their time will come. God's going to deal with these people. Because I think I told you what happened to my judge.
No,
Oh, okay. So, all right, I'll say it as quick as I can. Okay, so the judge took my kids away from me March 2nd of 2015. Again, it was retaliation. It was collusion with the opposing attorney because they were BFFs in the DA's department for years. So all of this was in collusion. On top of that, my ex's wife enjoys her job in the courthouse. Okay. So remember that date, March 2nd, 2015. Went through hell for trying to get supervised visits. My mother begged the judge. She doesn't need supervised visits. Anyway, fast forward. Here I am on March 2nd, 2017, and I'm with a friend. We were just roaming around the mall, and I get a call from another friend saying, "Hey, did you see the news?" I said, "No." And she said, "Hey, your judge died."
wow.
Okay. So when you say, God, you deal with them, I'm putting them
Hmm.
in your hands, God, because
Hmm.
I can't, there's been other instances as well in my case. The attorney that torpedoed my case, yeah, I think he was a little bit older than me, but not by much, but he dropped dead of a heart attack. And I said, I can't believe he pulled all that. And God, you deal with him too.
And he
The
got dealt with.
Yeah, and the opposing attorney started out as a woman. He had an opposing attorney that was a woman, and listen, I used to be a psychiatric nurse. Then I turned into a heart floor nurse, and then I was an ER nurse for 3 years before I lost my career through all of this. But when I saw this female attorney prance around in a courtroom in hot pink pumps and a pleather moto jacket, and Capri. I mean, I've never seen anything like this, and I've never seen a human being behave like this, like screaming at the top of her lungs and the dramatics. Oh my God. I mean, you'd have to see this, you'd probably bust out laughing, but I'm looking at this in horror, going, I can't take this. I said, God, do something. Get her out of my life. And that's what I prayed. And God heard me because 3 months later, my attorney gets a letter saying, I'm just letting you know we have to do a continuance because she has cancer.
Mm.
So put your faith in God and learn your law. And I'm so glad I have met you. And, if anyone has any questions, how can they contact you?
You can just email me at jamus.bryant@gmail.com. That's jamus.bryant@gmail.com. I'm here. I like to help. If
Mhm.
anything that happened or I experienced in my legal troubles, if I can help you, um, I will.
Mhm. And I appreciate that because a lot of us, people that have been through family court, they just totally back off once they're done with their case. And I don't know. I mean, maybe they're so traumatized they don't want to talk about it or they're not strong enough to help others.
The
Um,
trauma is real. I, I,
it
I know the
is.
trauma is real.
Yeah.
And
And
people have jobs and they don't have the time and the finances and all those things weighing against them,
mhm,
and they succumb to those things, which is understandable. I
mhm.
understand that. You got to keep fighting. Can't give up.
Right. Definitely. Well, I'm so glad we met, and I'd like to have you back on for any other updates. So don't jump off, okay? Slam the
Okay.
Gavel. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Jamus Bryant. That was awesome. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
speaking
Thank you very
out.
much. Thank you. Thank you, Marianne. Appreciate everything.
Thank you.